Well, good morning, everybody. This is Alan Chell. I'm one of the account managers at ABC Computers, and welcome to this month's webcast. Today, we are joined by Pierre Morgensen, who is the president and founder of Mergetool. Pierre is going to be taking us through his product, Easy Security. As many of you might know, managing permissions and roles inside of NAV, especially when you have quite a few users, can be a very time-consuming task. And I think you're going to see that that Pierre's tool really goes a long way to simplify and save a lot of time in managing permissions. So we will be taking questions at the end. If you want to go ahead and raise your hand or email me the question, I'll be making sure to call at you towards the end. Pierre, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, what I want to go through today is Easy Security solution. It's a complete solution both for the classic and rotor client, and it actually works in any version of NAV that run a 2.6 executable or later, so it's almost anything I think that exists out there. It also works in 2013, and as I will here at the end today, I'll just show a few of the features in 2013 also actually. There's two parts of the application. One is field level action and data security, and this one goes way beyond what you normally can do with NAV security. It allows you to control individual forms and pages if you want to make them read-only or you completely want to hide them. You can also go in and control the individual fields also. Again, make them read-only or hide them completely so users can see it. Again, for each individual object, you can have a different setup in there. Actions, that is the menu items in the rotor client, or the buttons in the classic client, can also be controlled, so you can actually gray them out. You can completely hide them also. On top of all these features that are kind of driving what people can see and visual, you can also filter the data. So if you don't want people to see all the accounts in the chart of account, they can maybe only see the income account, for example, and you can apply a filter differently by each individual format. The other part of it, of course, is the roles and logins, and that's a standard NAV security that is in here. You can record permissions, and that's a key feature where you'll spend most time actually. If you want to set up new roles, you can just go in and use the recorder. You can either use a SQL profiler, that is a tool that comes with a SQL server, and then you can just use that and record anything, or you can use the client monitor, but that only works inside the classic client. There's nothing else to buy, by the way. The SQL profiler is for free if you have a SQL database. It also allows you to group roles and companies, and that's really where you start saving a lot of time by putting a lot of roles into a single group. You only need to assign that to the user then. Also, if somebody comes audited, it's a lot easier to audit now because there's only one group that you have to audit, and then 10 users that uses that group. It makes it a lot simpler for the auditors. Everything you do in Easy Security is actually working offline, so you can edit permissions when people are still working. When you get ready to push the permission to a live system or to the live data, you will create a restore point, and that restore point can even be used for rolling back. So if the permissions don't work, you can put in the previous one. You also have a way of dealing with object-level permissions, where you only have to put in a list of objects you deny access to, and then Easy Security deals with the rest of them. So, but let's go in and take a look at the application in here. And I want to start with the roles and logins. And I'll switch, both switch 2013 and 2009, and between the classic and the rotor client. So to begin with, I'll start with 2009, the rotor client in here. Rotor client in 2009. If you're actually going to administer security, you have to go back to a classic client because there is number that has been designed for dealing with security. So I can look at my logins, my roles. I have something about field level security down here. But let's take a look at the logins first up here. And I have several logins in this database in here. And my username as another user ID. So now Peter will have the same permission as John, and I don't have to maintain John in here. It makes it also very easy when you hire a new person. You can later on maybe work to find out what they should have in here. So the other thing you can do in here, instead of assigning, I now went to John, that is the one Peter is like, I can of course assign roles as I used to, but I can also assign groups of roles in here. So if I take a look at my groups, I have roles that the user actually needs to do their job in here. So the only thing I have in here is an operation in your groups in here. So this one has the 2 journals, but then it also has all the other groups for the people working in sales, purchase, and in the warehousing. So, oops, that was not one I wanted. I wanted the sales one in here. Same thing as I can group roles, I can actually also group companies in here. So if I take a look at this one, I have this one called operations down here, and it's in Corona company because then you get access to everything in here. So basically I can just go in here and set up my group sales and then for operations in here. It turns out to be several, I had 16 roles times 2 companies, so it actually would be 32 permissions if I maintain this manually in here. Another thing that happens very often is that people need temporary permission. So let's say this user here needs to actually do some data setup in one of the companies. So they're going to be super data inside the Kronos North America, but they're going to put in an expiry date on that one. So at the same time I assign the permission, I'm also telling when it actually is going to take them away in here. When the 1st of February comes, the line will actually not get deleted. The only thing that will happen is you have this no permission checked in here. And that means the permission are not active any longer, because I already mentioned earlier that everything I do here is working offline. I'm not changing anything in the live system right now. The same feature about no permission and expiry also exists on the user itself. So when you create a temporary user, you can have a date where actually all the permission disappears from that user. So if the user is not here, you can just check the no permission, and then they will disappear next time you do the publish function in here. If I go ahead and calculate all the roles that are supposed to be pushed up there, I have my 33 roles and company combinations, but then I also have something called summary permissions. And a lot of times you want to ensure that people don't have too much access in here. And I can go some my vendor ledger entry. I can see that I only have read access. I have no insert, no modified out here. That means I'm 100% sure this user don't get any access to my vendor ledger entry, and go in and take a look at those ones before you do anything. Or you can, of course, only the one you're interested in. So it's a real nice feature to be able to just see what people will get, even if they get 16 groups inside or roles inside the same company. So, yeah, this one is the logins, the role groups, and the company groups, and that's kind of nice to have. The one thing where it really, so you have to set up security from scratch, for example. And I want to use the SQL profiler for actually doing a tracing here. So I'll go ahead and open up my SQL profiler. And I have 2 versions of it. So this one is a 2012, but this one works all the way down to SQL 2000 actually. And then I'll go ahead and start a new trace. The trace is against the SQL server, and that has a huge advantage that you can actually have a user that logs in on a web service or on a very dedicated client like an eShip packing station, for example. You can record all the transactions that that user is actually doing against the database while you're still sitting at your own desk actually. So that makes it very easy to do these recordings in here. You can also go in and filter by the user and all kinds of other things in here. I'm actually just going to record everything in here, and I can see something is happening in that database as an application server running in here. What else? I'll just go in and I want to create a sales order in here. So I'll go here. It takes a little longer because I'm actually compiling objects in there. So it's, as it opens them, there'll be a few more transactions than you would normally have. I just created it and I typed basically only in 4 fields: the customer number, type, number, and the quantity down here. And normally when you record permission, that would be labeled as a trace XML file, and this one was creating a sales order. I used the rotor client so far. I'm going to switch now to the classic clients because that will give me an ability to actually see. And I have a card in here. Instead of adding individual permissions, I'm actually going to add it to a recording in here. And that recording can then be attached to multiple roles in here. But let me go ahead and select my SQL trace in here. This is for creating a recording in here. Let's say you have a new customization that is getting done, and that maybe changes some of your permissions, or it needs to change some of the permissions. It can maybe affect multiple roles, but if you actually make one recording that is only looking for those permissions, then you can go ahead and add that recording to multiple roles in here, and you only record once, but that actually fixes all the problems that they have with that one. I already mentioned that I only did the most basic part. What I'm going to do on top of this recording that I'm importing right now, I'll actually add a source code analyzer. And that source code analyzer tells exactly what table relations, what flow fields, and things like that one, what fact boxes needs to also be added. So instead of me needing to do every little drill down everywhere, the source code analyzer actually knows the application, and it will go give all those extra permissions in here. So gets a little faster here at the end. Creating a sales order is, it looks like, yeah, I created 2 entries in here, but it's around 4,000 transactions actually against the database that it's importing. One thing you want to do when you set up roles, you want to make roles that match small tasks, or you could select multiple principles. If you do one that matches small task and then you use the role groups to combine them, it will give you a much better way of maintaining them, because new customization, even upgrades, will actually not change a lot of your permissions. It will only be a few things that actually breaks it that way. And by using the role groups, you still don't get complex to actually assign it to the users. So I know what's going on here. It's clearly busy. So okay. So I have all my recorded permissions. I know what client it was, what user it was, and there's a few of these ones I really don't want in here, like the NAV server. I don't want the transaction that was caused by that one. I only want the one that was caused by the RTC and inside this company in here. So as I select that one, creating my one-line sales order was 227 permissions in here. And I can go ahead and take a look at them in here. And I know if I needed to read data, if I needed to calculate flow fields, insert, modify, delete, and so on in here. So but let's add this new recording to my role and then go and update my role in here. My 227 permissions got into 338 now. And down here, I didn't do a lookup in the salesperson code, but it knows there is a table relation. So it gives me read access to my salesperson in here. So this one makes it very easy to actually create new roles. With the source code analyzer on top of it, it actually solved a lot of problems in here. So I created my new role, and let's go add that to the sales role group. So assigned to my login, security database login. They don't have any roles right now. So let me go ahead and do a publish, and that will actually change the permissions for them in here. So this one, I can give it a comment up here. So I'm just going to add John and Peter, and then I'll go ahead and publish. The publish process goes through several things. First of all, I do a check that everything is consistent, that you didn't assign a role that didn't exist any longer and things like that one. Process. A lot of times, the extra permission required will actually be added automatically simply of the fact of you rerunning the source code analysis. You don't have to do anything when you even update your new code in here. And you can see right now it's updating all the role details. It's calculating all the users. Before I do anything, it will create a restore point. It basically means it's a snapshot of the live system or the live data. And then it will start writing the new data to the live system in here. Now it's at the last point where it actually writes the new data in here. So if something went wrong in here, I could always go reverse back to the previous permissions. So I don't have to go figure out what the permissions were before. I can just go into a restore point and actually go and rewrite the same permission as before in here. So it will be a few more seconds, and then the permission was published in here. So if I now go look under Tool Security John, I will see that all the new roles are in here, my new create sales order, everything was published here to the live system. So one of the things you can do with these restore latest version here, and this one is a restore point from my live data. If I go here and create another one, and I just take another snapshot in here, I'll just go in and store the current one, because this one was how it was right before I pushed permission. Now we get one that is how it was afterwards. And I'll go ahead and compare those two, and then I can see all my changes in here. So I can see the number of records, and I could, of course, go in and look at the different parts of the data. Comparing 31 and 30, I want to compare, look at my database access controls and the roles, and go ahead and click OK in here. And now it shows me a line here that is 31. Then my data access controls down here, and there's a whole bunch of new ones here. Then when I come down to Peter, of course I see the same in here. And as I go down, I'll see even Susan actually had changes because I changed my role group. And it turns out Susan was actually, and I can of course decide what I want to see myself in here. So this one is one part of Easy Security. It's a part that deals with roles and logins. The other part is a field level security, and it's all based on a different setup than what you normally use for roles. And to make it simple, you actually have only one role inside the table in here. So I already have added one line for the blank user. It's default for everybody. I then have the read-only permissions out here. So if I now go to take a look at my sales order in here, I'll see that suddenly everything in here also, if I go ahead and take a look at my sales orders again, I see all my menu items grayed out up here also, so I can't see anything at all in here. But let's go change this one a little, because I'm going to add one for myself in here. And I logged in as a user here. And in the table 36, instead of using the read-only setup, I'll use the one called basic in here. If I open up my order, everything that is non-editable any longer. So you can control individual fields. Also have the order button active down here that I can actually click on. And same goes for the role client. If I take a look at that basic code, what is that meaning in here? I can go control the individual objects in here. And if I take a look, I have form 0, the same concept as a blank user. That's my default in here. And it's set to view out here. So everything just shows up read only. I can't do anything in here. Every form and every page. And then I can go open up for the pages that are different in here. And my form 42 is set to be editable in here. I could also go ahead and say I don't want anything in here, so I'll go into 402, for example. That is my sales order statistics. I go into hide that form. So even if people try to or have perfect permission for it, I can actually hide an object. I can also go in here and look at the sales order in here. Again, field number 0 is the default, and default is set to view in here. But let's just go ahead and hide everything in here so we can actually really see that something is happening on that form. The same way as I have added fields in here, I can also deal with the controls in here. And in the classic clients, it means all the buttons. So I could go ahead and say that my function button, I action to my orders. Suddenly almost every field is gone in here, except a few fields that the user actually is able to see. My function button disappeared. And if I go down here and click on statistics, I just get an error that I can't view the sales order in here because that has been disabled at this point. So yeah, if I go look at the same, I need to of course go here and let's just add the page 402 down here and go hide that one. If I now take a look in my rotor client, of course, tells me that that page cannot be viewed in here. So yeah, so this one part of it, controlling the objects, controlling the fields, controlling the actions or menu buttons. The other side of field level and data security is the data security part, of course. So if I look at my list of customers here right now, I have a lot of look at one of them. I can, for example, see that this customer has a posting group of EU in here. If this user's one in here, so if I go in here and say I just want to use a blank user in 18 and want to set up a data security code in here. And same way as it worked before, you can deal with each individual object individually. So in my case, I actually have the page in here, 0 default, and then I have a different one inside the customer list in here. I can go in here and look at my filters. I can both do hidden filters and I can do edit flow filters in here. Edit flow is something the user can remove. They can't even see the hidden ones are applied and of course not remove them either. So, but let's just go apply this. So if I go back here and open up my customer list now I have a much shorter list here of customers. If I go open up this one for yellow, or let's look at one of them in here for blue, I can go look at that one because that's domestic and blue. If I try to open one that I'm not supposed to look at within the filter actually. So you can have different filters on the list compared to the cards actually in here. So there are several features with this filtering also. I want to show it of course in here. And I can go in here where I basically want to say I have the read-only set up in here. If I now go back to my list of sales orders, now everything grayed out suddenly. If I go in and look at 2009 and 2013, it's available for 3.7 executables or later. Actually, it's 2.6 actually. We can go further back than that one. It's only new objects. So when you get Easy Security, you get the objects and you get a new license, but there's no merge or anything else required actually. We currently have it translated to 8 different languages and around 140 roles and logins in stores and 100 field level security ones. The pricing, you can find that on the website, but basically the roles and logins cost $2,000. Field level security is $2,400, but if you buy both, it's actually a $4,000 price for the complete solution. So we also offer installation services for a fixed price also, but we will training in our solutions also. Yeah. If you want more information, there is a lot on the Mergetool.com website actually, and you can go in and find specific information about the different products in here also, or the different parts of the product. Yeah, I don't know if there's any questions or
Yeah, we will go ahead and open it up for questions now, everybody. While you're typing your questions, I have one, Pierre, if you could. I remember you and I talking, oh gosh, probably sometime last year, and you were showing me, kind of sharing a common problem where, a lot of business owners are uncomfortable with the fact that, you can define a lot of security, but the NAV administrator ends up having access to everything. Is there a way to limit the access for the person that's actually defining permissions?
Yeah, that's actually one of the parts in here, and one of the reasons you saw there was an application server running here when I actually recorded. There is actually a way to set up Easy Security. You can go into something called login setup in here, and you can go in and say there's limited access control editing. So you create an IT person in here, you set him up to only have access into a Kronos Easy Security company, and you put this record in and check this field. Now the user cannot change his own permissions, because he has pretty limited permissions inside this company. But he still wants to be able to actually change the permission for every user in the system. And that's why you can use an application server in here. So if I go up here under roles and logins, I have what is called NAV processing entries in here. And I can go in and request that the application server actually go out and do a publish in here. So if I reset the status here, it inserted a job queue, and you can see it's now in process. The application server is actually now the one being the super user changing the permission, but the user that requested it can have very limited permission and only access to this one company in here that actually is where the Easy Security data exists. So it is completely possible, and we have a couple of customers that actually run that way with a couple of IT people that can't change their own or any other IT person's permissions. So, yep, it works fine.
Okay, fantastic. I'll open it up for general questions now. If anybody wants to type in a question, or if anybody is out there that has access to a microphone, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody at this point as well. I know, Jeremy, I see that you're out there. Do you have any questions? Do you have a mic? Well, I'm not getting any questions coming through, everybody, so I want to thank you for your time today. Pierre, I want to thank you for your time as well. And if anybody has any questions, they can